Have you ever found yourself standing in the middle of a bustling room, surrounded by the lively chatter of countless conversations, yet feeling a profound sense of isolation? It is a strange and unsettling paradox of modern life, where the proximity of others can somehow amplify the feeling of being utterly alone. The noise of the crowd fades into a distant hum, and you are left with the echo of your own thoughts, a solitary island in a sea of faces. In that moment, the world feels vast and indifferent, and a quiet, persistent question begins to form in the deepest corners of your heart, a question that touches upon the very essence of our human experience and our place within this grand, often overwhelming tapestry of existence. This feeling is not a sign of weakness or a personal failing. Rather, it is a universal whisper of the soul, a shared human yearning that transcends culture, age, and circumstance. It is the silent acknowledgement that physical presence does not always equate to meaningful connection. We can be surrounded by people at work, in our neighborhoods, or even within our own homes, yet feel a chasm of distance that no amount of small talk can bridge. This sense of being adrift, of being an unseen spectator in the theater of life, is a common thread that weaves through many of our stories, prompting us to look beyond the surface and seek something more substantial, more real, and more fulfilling in our interactions with one another. The question that surfaces in these moments of quiet solitude is a powerful one. Where do I truly belong? It is a query that goes far beyond simply finding a group to associate with or a place to occupy. It is a search for a harbor, a sanctuary, where we can be our authentic selves without fear of judgment or rejection. Belonging is not just about being included, it is about being seen, known, and valued for who we are at our core. It is the deep-seated desire to find a tribe, a family of the heart, where our joys are multiplied, our sorrows are shared, and our very presence makes a meaningful difference to the lives of others around us. This search for belonging is, in many ways, the central adventure of our lives. It is a quest that can lead us down many paths, some filled with disappointment and others with unexpected joy. The feeling of loneliness in a crowd is the starting point of this profound journey, the catalyst that pushes us to seek out genuine community. It is the soul's gentle but firm reminder that we were not made for isolation, but for deep and abiding connection. This powerful, innate desire for a place to call home, for people to call our own, is the very first step toward discovering one of the most vital components of a purpose-driven life, a life rich with meaning, support, and shared love. My friend, if these feelings of longing and searching resonate with you, please know that you are not walking this path by yourself. I extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to you as we embark on day 19 of our shared purpose-driven journey. This is a space dedicated to exploring the most significant questions of life, to uncovering the profound truths that guide us toward a more meaningful existence. We have traveled far together, delving into various aspects of our spiritual and personal growth, but today, we turn our focus to a subject that lies at the very heart of our human needs, a foundational element that every soul desperately craves, whether we openly admit it or not. It is a topic that can transform our experience from one of isolation to one of profound connection. Today, our exploration centers on the vital and life-altering power of community. We are not talking about superficial acquaintances or the fleeting interactions that fill our daily schedules. Instead, we are diving deep into the essence of what it means to be part of something larger than ourselves. We will be discussing the nature of real, authentic, life-giving relationships, the kind of connections that sustain us through difficult times and elevate our joys to new heights. These are the relationships that form the bedrock of a resilient and flourishing life, providing the emotional and spiritual nourishment that we all require to thrive, not just merely survive, in this complex world we all navigate together. The concept of community is often misunderstood in our fast-paced, individualistic society. It can be mistaken for a network, a social circle, or a group with a shared interest. While these are components, true community goes much deeper. It is a sacred space of mutual support, unconditional acceptance, and shared vulnerability. It is where we find the courage to be our true selves, knowing that we will be loved and accepted, flaws and all. It is a place of belonging where the collective strength of the group empowers each individual member, creating a powerful synergy that can overcome any obstacle and celebrate every victory, no matter how small or large it may seem to be. This journey into the heart of community is not just an intellectual exercise, it is a deeply personal and transformative exploration. It is an invitation to examine our own lives, to identify the areas where we feel disconnected, and to take intentional steps toward cultivating the relationships that our souls were designed for. Over the next few moments, we will unpack why this need is so fundamental to our design and how we can begin to build these essential connections. So, I invite you to open your heart and mind as we delve into this crucial aspect of our purpose, preparing to discover the incredible strength and joy that await us when we finally learn to stop walking alone. The fundamental truth that we must grasp is a simple yet profound one: we were not created to walk through life alone. Consider the intricate design of the natural world, where ecosystems thrive on interdependence and symbiotic relationships. Think of the way forests flourish not as individual trees, but as a complex, interconnected network of roots and fungi, sharing nutrients and information. In the same way, our own existence was intended to be one of connection, of mutual reliance and shared experience. The feeling of loneliness is not a flaw in our character, but a signal from our very core, an internal compass pointing us back to our original design. This design for connection is woven into the very fabric of our being, a divine imprint placed upon our souls from the very beginning of time. It is a reflection of a much deeper spiritual reality that speaks to the nature of our Creator. When we look at the theological concept of the Trinity, we see a perfect example of community at the highest level. God Himself exists in a perpetual state of relationship, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, three distinct persons in one unified being, bound together by an eternal, self-giving love. This divine community serves as the ultimate blueprint for our own lives, demonstrating that relationship is not just a human preference but a divine principle woven into the cosmos. Because this need for connection is part of our foundational design, no other achievement or worldly success can ever truly substitute for it. You can climb the highest corporate ladder, accumulate vast amounts of wealth, or receive the most prestigious accolades from society, but if you return home to an empty room and an empty heart, a sense of profound emptiness will inevitably persist. The void created by isolation cannot be filled with material possessions, fleeting pleasures, or professional accomplishments. It is a uniquely shaped space within our souls that can only be filled by genuine, loving relationships with other people. Therefore, as we continue on this journey, let us hold this truth close to our hearts. We were made for belonging. This is not a mere suggestion or helpful tip. It is the fundamental reality of our existence. Recognizing and embracing this truth is the key that unlocks the door to a richer, fuller, and more purpose-driven life. It is the starting point for building the kind of community that will not only support us, but also empower us to become the people we were always meant to be. Our design for connection is not a weakness to be overcome, but a strength to be celebrated and cultivated with intention and care. The feeling of loneliness is not a recent invention, nor is it a phenomenon exclusive to our time. Throughout human history, individuals have experienced moments of isolation, a sense of being disconnected from the tribe, the family, or the community. It is a timeless human sorrow, a deep ache that has been documented in ancient scriptures, epic poems, and tragic plays for millennia. However, what is starkly different about our present age is the sheer scale and pervasiveness of this experience. Loneliness has transformed from a personal, intermittent struggle into a widespread public health crisis, a silent epidemic that quietly infects millions of lives across the globe, regardless of their outward circumstances or societal status. It has become a defining characteristic of modern existence. Today, loneliness is everywhere, lurking in the shadows of our bustling cities and seeping through the cracks of our seemingly vibrant digital lives. It is a paradox that has come to define our generation. We live in an era of unprecedented technological advancement, with tools designed to bring us closer together, yet we report feeling more profoundly alone than ever before. This modern loneliness is a complex and insidious force, one that can thrive even in the most crowded of environments. It is the student in a large university, surrounded by peers but feeling invisible, the office worker in an open-plan workspace feeling unheard, and the elderly parent in a busy family, feeling like a burden. This is the quiet despair of our times. This epidemic is fueled by a confluence of societal shifts. The decline of traditional community hubs like local clubs, neighborhood associations, and even religious institutions has left a vacuum in our social fabric. We have become a more mobile society, often moving away from our hometowns and extended families for education or career opportunities, which severs deep-rooted connections. The relentless pace of modern life, with its emphasis on productivity and individual achievement, often leaves little time or energy for the slow, patient work of nurturing meaningful relationships. We are taught to be self-sufficient and independent, but this cultural narrative often overlooks the fundamental human need for interdependence and mutual support, leaving us stranded on islands of our own making. The consequences of this widespread loneliness are devastating, impacting not only our emotional well-being, but also our physical health. Chronic loneliness has been linked to a host of serious health issues, including an increased risk of heart disease, dementia, depression, and a weakened immune system. It can be as detrimental to our health as smoking or obesity. This is not merely a feeling of sadness. It is a state of being that slowly erodes our vitality and our hope. Recognizing loneliness as the pervasive epidemic it is, becomes the first critical step in understanding why our deep, innate need for connection is not a luxury, but an absolute necessity for a healthy, flourishing life. We find ourselves at a peculiar crossroads in human history, equipped with an astonishing array of tools designed to foster connection. With the simple tap of a screen, we can communicate with someone on the other side of the planet, share our life's moments with hundreds of friends simultaneously, and join countless online groups dedicated to every imaginable interest. We are, by all technological measures, the most connected generation that has ever lived. Our social networks span continents, our messages travel at the speed of light, and the potential for interaction is virtually limitless. We carry the entire world in our pockets, a constant stream of updates, likes, and comments promising a sense of belonging and community at our fingertips. Yet despite this hyperconnectivity, a profound and growing sense of isolation persists. The digital platforms that promise to bring us together can, paradoxically, make us feel more disconnected than ever before. The curated perfection of social media feeds often creates a culture of comparison, where we measure our messy, authentic lives against the highlight reels of others. This can lead to feelings of inadequacy, envy, and a sense of being left out. The shallow nature of many online interactions, the quick like, the brief comment, the fleeting emoji, can leave us feeling unseen and unknown on a deeper level. We may have 1,000 online followers, but not a single person to call when our hearts are truly breaking. The very nature of digital communication can create a facade of intimacy that prevents genuine vulnerability. It is far easier to project an image of success and happiness online than it is to admit our struggles, our fears, and our failures. We become performers on a digital stage, carefully managing our personal brand rather than sharing our authentic selves. This performance, while perhaps garnering admiration, ultimately pushes true connection further away. Real community is built on the messy, imperfect, and beautiful reality of our shared humanity, not on the polished and filtered versions of ourselves that we present to the world. The illusion of connection can be a powerful barrier to finding the real thing, leaving us starving for depth in an ocean of superficiality. The result is a world where we are constantly in touch, but rarely truly touched. We scroll through endless feeds of other people's lives, becoming passive consumers of their experiences rather than active participants in our own communities. This constant digital noise can drown out the quiet, face-to-face interactions that are essential for building trust and intimacy. We have traded presence for proximity, depth for breadth, and vulnerability for validation. The sobering truth is that our digital tethers, while useful, cannot replace the irreplaceable value of looking someone in the eye, offering a comforting touch, or sharing a space of silence together. We are more connected, yet more isolated, and our souls feel the immense weight of this contradiction. Our longing for community is woven into our very being. It's not accidental, but intentional. From the start, God declared, "It is not good for man to be alone," revealing that togetherness is essential to our design. Even God exists in relationship. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, showing us that connection is at the heart of reality. The Bible's story is about people, not just individuals, called into family, body, and community. When we feel lonely, it's a sign we're living against our purpose. We're meant to belong. The blueprint for our lives is togetherness, written by a relational creator. We chase success thinking it will satisfy us, but achievement alone leaves us empty. Stories abound of people with fame and fortune who still feel isolated and unfulfilled. No title or bank account can replace the comfort of real connection. True value comes from being loved for who we are, not what we do. Community fills the void that success cannot touch. Lasting joy is found in relationships, not in what we own or accomplish. In authentic community, encouragement becomes our lifeline during hardship. When burdens feel too heavy, friends step in, making the load lighter and the journey possible. True encouragement isn't empty words. It's presence, practical help, and hope. Community reminds us of our strength and worth when we forget. Alone, despair grows. Together, hope is restored. We're not defined by our struggles, but by the love that surrounds us. In community, we find the courage to keep going. When life is confusing, community offers clarity and wisdom. Others bring fresh perspectives, hard-won lessons, and honest feedback. In a safe circle, we process decisions and find guidance rooted in love. Proverbs says, "In an abundance of counselors there is safety." Alone we get stuck in our own heads. Together we find our way. Community is our compass in uncertain times. Community is where wounds heal and joys multiply. In safe company our scars are met with empathy, not judgment. Vulnerability leads to acceptance, breaking the power of shame. Our victories are sweeter when shared. celebrated by those who care. Sorrow is halved, joy is doubled. Isolation magnifies pain, community brings fullness of life. This is the gift of walking together, healing, celebrating, and truly living. To begin cultivating the kind of community that truly nourishes the soul, we must first lay a foundational cornerstone, and that cornerstone is authenticity. This is the radical commitment to being our genuine selves, to showing up in our relationships without the heavy burden of a mask. In a world that often pressures us to project an image of perfection, to curate our lives for public consumption, authenticity calls us to a higher and more courageous standard. It invites us to drop the pretense, to set aside the carefully constructed facade that we believe makes us more acceptable or impressive. It is the brave decision to let others see the real us, complete with our strengths and weaknesses, our joys and our sorrows, our triumphs and our struggles. This is the starting point for any meaningful connection. Pretending is the silent poison of community. When we pretend to have it all together, when we hide our insecurities and fears behind a veneer of confidence, we inadvertently build a wall around our hearts. This wall may protect us from perceived judgment, but it also prevents anyone from truly getting close to us. People can connect with a person, but they cannot connect with a performance. When we are not real, we create an impassable distance, forcing others to interact with a curated version of ourselves rather than the person who actually needs connection. This inauthenticity, while intended to make us more likable, ultimately fosters a profound sense of loneliness, as we feel unknown and unseen even when surrounded by others. Conversely, vulnerability is the magnetic force that draws people close. It is the act of sharing our struggles, admitting our needs, and being honest about our imperfections. When we have the courage to say, "I'm not okay," or "I don't have the answer," we give others the permission to do the same. This shared vulnerability creates an immediate and powerful bond of common humanity. It shatters the illusion that we are alone in our struggles and replaces it with the comforting reality that we are all imperfect people navigating a complex world together. Vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of profound strength and an invitation to intimacy, signaling to others that this is a safe space to be real. Therefore, the first step in building true community is to embrace authenticity as a core value. This means choosing to share your true story, not just the highlight reel. It means being honest about your feelings, even when they are messy or uncomfortable. It requires a daily act of courage to let go of the need for approval and instead embrace the freedom of being fully and unapologetically yourself. When we commit to this path, we discover that the very things we feared would push people away, our flaws, our struggles, our humanity, are often the very things that draw them into a deeper, more meaningful, and life-giving relationship with us. Authenticity is the key that unlocks the door to true belonging. Once the foundation of authenticity is laid, the structure of community is built with the second pillar: mutuality. This is the essential understanding that a healthy community is a dynamic, two-way street, not a one-way path of consumption. It is a living ecosystem where every member both contributes and receives, where support flows in all directions. Mutuality is the principle that moves us beyond being a mere spectator and calls us to become active, engaged participants. It is the lifeblood of any thriving relationship, ensuring that the community remains balanced, resilient, and life-giving for everyone involved. Without this rhythm of giving and receiving, a group can quickly become depleted and unsustainable. Community is not a spectator sport. It is a profound departure from the consumer mindset that so often infiltrates our relationships. We cannot simply show up to take what we need, to receive encouragement, to seek wisdom, to find comfort, without also being willing to offer those same gifts to others. A community where some people only take and others only give will eventually collapse under the weight of the imbalance. The givers will become exhausted and resentful, while the takers will remain emotionally immature, never experiencing the growth and purpose that comes from serving others. True belonging requires us to engage our hearts, hands, and resources for the good of the whole. To cultivate mutuality, we must regularly and honestly ask ourselves a critical question: am I giving as much as I am taking? This is not about keeping a meticulous scorecard of favors or transactions. Rather, it is about maintaining a posture of generosity and attentiveness. It means looking for opportunities to serve, to encourage, and to support the people in our circle. It is about celebrating their victories as enthusiastically as we hope they will celebrate ours. It is about being willing to carry their burdens, just as we ask them to help carry ours. This conscious effort to contribute ensures that the well of community never runs dry, because every member is committed to replenishing it. This pillar of mutuality transforms relationships from a resource to be exploited into a sacred trust to be nurtured. It is the practical application of the biblical command to love your neighbor as yourself. When we are committed to the well-being of others as much as our own, we create a powerful cycle of reciprocal care. This shared responsibility fosters a deep sense of security and interdependence, where everyone knows they are a valued and necessary part of the whole. A community built on mutuality is strong and enduring because its members are bound together not by what they can get, but by what they can give to one another. With authenticity and mutuality in place, the third pillar that strengthens the bonds of community is sympathy. This is not sympathy in the sense of pity or feeling sorry for someone from a distance. Rather, this is the deeper, more profound act of empathy and presence, of suffering with another person. It is the commitment to be fully present with people in their pain, their confusion, and their joy. In our fix-it-obsessed culture, we often feel an overwhelming pressure to provide answers, to offer solutions, or to make the discomfort go away. But true sympathy understands that sometimes the most powerful and healing gift we can offer is simply our silent, attentive, and unwavering presence. You do not always have to fix things. In fact, the premature rush to offer advice or solutions can often feel dismissive, as if we are trying to short-circuit the person's emotional process because their pain makes us uncomfortable. Real sympathy resists this urge. It chooses instead to sit with someone in the messiness of their feelings, to create a safe space for them to grieve, to rage, to doubt, or to simply be. It is the friend who sits by a hospital bed in silence, the neighbor who brings a cup of tea and just listens, the spouse who holds you while you cry without saying a word. This kind of presence communicates a powerful message. You are not alone in this. I can handle your pain. I am here with you. The cornerstone of this pillar is the art of deep listening. This means listening not with the intent to reply, but with the sole purpose of understanding. It involves putting away our distractions, quieting our own internal monologue, and giving our full attention to the person in front of us. It is about listening to the words they are saying and also to the emotions behind the words. A listening ear is one of the most profound expressions of love and respect we can offer. It validates a person's experience and affirms their worth, showing them that their story matters and that they are seen, heard, and understood on a fundamental level. This act of being truly heard is incredibly healing. By cultivating this pillar of sympathy, we create a community that is a true sanctuary for the hurting. We build a culture where people feel safe enough to be vulnerable because they know they will be met with compassion, not with quick fixes or judgment. It is a place where emotional presence is valued more than easy answers. This powerful gift of your silent presence, your listening ear, is often more comforting than 1,000 well-intentioned words. It is the glue that holds hearts together in times of trial, demonstrating a love that is patient, enduring, and strong enough to simply be there, no matter what. The final and perhaps most crucial pillar, the one that holds the entire structure of community together through the inevitable storms of life, is mercy. No community of imperfect human beings can survive for long without a deep and abiding commitment to grace. The reality is that people will hurt you. Friends will disappoint you. Members of your community will make mistakes, say the wrong thing, and act selfishly. You, too, will be the source of someone else's pain. In these moments of fracture and failure, we are faced with a choice: we can hold on to grudges, demand retribution, and allow bitterness to take root, or we can choose the more difficult but life-giving path of mercy. To be merciful is to forgive. It is the conscious decision to release someone from the debt of their offense, to let go of your right to punish or resent them. This is not about condoning the hurtful behavior or pretending that the pain did not happen. Forgiveness is not forgetting, it is choosing not to let the offense define the future of the relationship. It is an act of profound grace, mirroring the grace that we ourselves have received from God. As Scripture reminds us, we are called to be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other just as in Christ God forgave you. This divine command is the key to relational resilience. Mercy is the essential ingredient that allows a community to repair and heal after conflict. Without it, small offenses fester and grow into deep-seated divisions. Unforgiveness acts like a cancer, slowly eating away at the trust and love that bind people together. It builds walls of resentment and suspicion, making authentic connection impossible. A community that does not practice mercy will inevitably shatter under the pressure of human imperfection. But a community steeped in mercy becomes incredibly strong, capable of navigating conflict, repairing breaches, and emerging from challenges with even deeper bonds of trust and commitment. It is a place where failure is not final. Every great community, whether it is a marriage, a family, a friendship, or a church, is ultimately held together by the powerful, resilient glue of grace. It is the daily choice to extend mercy when it is undeserved, to offer forgiveness when it is difficult, and to receive it with humility when we are the ones who have failed. This pillar requires immense strength, humility, and a reliance on a source of love greater than our own. When we build our relationships on the unshakable pillar of mercy, we create a community that is not just a fair-weather harbor, but a true, all-weather sanctuary capable of weathering any storm. These four pillars, authenticity, mutuality, sympathy, and mercy, are not merely abstract ideals. They form a practical and powerful blueprint for cultivating the true community our souls desperately need. They are the essential load-bearing walls that support a structure of deep and lasting belonging. When we intentionally build our relationships upon this fourfold foundation, we move beyond superficial connections and begin to create sacred spaces where people can truly flourish. A community built on these pillars is one where we can be real, where we both give and receive, where we are present for each other's pain, and where grace abounds. This is the model for the kind of fellowship we were designed for. Imagine a community where every person feels safe enough to drop their mask and share their true self, knowing they will be accepted. Picture a group where the flow of support is constant and reciprocal, with every member looking for ways to contribute to the well-being of others. Envision a circle of friends where, in moments of crisis, the first response is not to offer easy advice but to provide a quiet, listening, and empathetic presence. And think of a family, whether by blood or by choice, where mistakes are met not with condemnation, but with a grace that allows for healing and restoration. This is not a utopian fantasy. It is the tangible result of consistently practicing these 4 principles. Building this kind of community requires conscious effort and commitment from each of us. It begins with a personal decision to embody these pillars in our own interactions. We must choose authenticity over performance, mutuality over consumption, sympathy over quick fixes, and mercy over resentment. This work starts within our own hearts. We cannot expect to find a perfect community. We must be willing to help create one. By modeling these behaviors, we invite others to do the same, setting a new standard for how we relate to one another and fostering a culture where these values can take root and grow. As we move forward on our purpose-driven journey, let us carry this blueprint with us. Let us examine our existing relationships and ask where these pillars might be weak or missing. Let us seek out opportunities to strengthen them. One conversation, one act of service, one moment of forgiveness at a time. The path to true community is not easy, but it is the most rewarding construction project we will ever undertake. For on this foundation of authenticity, mutuality, sympathy, and mercy, we build more than just a social network. We build a home for the heart, a place where we finally and truly belong. Just as there are pillars that build and sustain a healthy community, there are also powerful destructive forces that work to tear it down from the inside. Not everything that looks like fellowship actually builds community. Some attitudes and behaviors, often subtle and insidious, are its sworn enemies. They are the silent killers that can infect a group, poisoning the trust and goodwill that are essential for true connection. These destructive habits can creep into our relationships unnoticed, disguised as concern or harmless conversation, but their effect is devastating. They work like a slow-acting poison, gradually eroding the very foundations of authenticity, mutuality, sympathy, and mercy that we have worked so hard to establish. Recognizing these enemies is the first step in defending our communities against them. One of the most corrosive of these enemies is gossip. It often presents itself as sharing important information or a prayer request. But at its heart, gossip is the act of speaking about someone in a negative or speculative way when they are not present to defend or clarify themselves. It creates triangles of communication where information is distorted and trust is broken. When we engage in gossip, we are trading in the currency of someone else's reputation for a fleeting moment of intimacy with the person we are talking to. This false bond, built on the exclusion of another, is a cheap imitation of real community. It fractures hearts, creates factions, and sows seeds of suspicion that can choke the life out of any group. Another deadly enemy is judgment. This is the critical spirit that rushes to condemn, to label, and to find fault in others. It is the tendency to measure everyone else against our own standards of righteousness or performance, forgetting our own imperfections. A judgmental heart has no room for the empathy and mercy that are vital for community. When people feel that they are constantly being evaluated and found wanting, they will retreat into a protective shell. They will hide their struggles, put on their masks, and refuse to be vulnerable. Judgment creates an environment of fear, not safety. It silences authenticity and replaces grace with a rigid, unforgiving law that no one can perfectly uphold, ultimately pushing people away and leaving them isolated in their shame. These forces are not loud, overt attacks. They are the silent killers. They operate in whispers, in knowing glances, and in the quiet assumptions we make about one another. They thrive in the shadows, preying on our insecurities and our desire to feel superior, or included. They can turn a vibrant, life-giving community into a hollow shell, a place of broken relationships and guarded hearts. The damage they inflict is profound, capable of fracturing the deepest friendships, dividing families, and even destroying the unity of entire churches. To cultivate true community, we must be relentlessly vigilant against these subtle but deadly enemies, choosing connection over condemnation every single time. Flowing from the destructive actions of gossip and judgment are two internal attitudes that act as the chief architects of isolation, pride, and selfishness. These enemies work from within our own hearts, convincing us that our needs, our opinions, and our comfort are more important than the health of the community. Pride is the root of so much division. It's the voice that whispers, "I am better than them," "I know more than them," or "I don't need them." A prideful heart is resistant to correction, unwilling to admit fault, and honestly, incapable of celebrating the successes of others. It sees relationship as a competition rather than a collaboration, and it's always seeking to elevate itself, even at the expense of tearing others down. Pride is the ultimate enemy of the pillar of mutuality. It refuses the humble rhythm of giving and receiving. A person consumed by pride may be willing to give, but only from a position of superiority, creating a dynamic of dependency rather than partnership. More often, pride makes one unable to receive help, viewing it as a sign of weakness. It prevents us from being vulnerable and authentic, because it fears that revealing our true needs will tarnish our image. This self-imposed fortress of superiority is, honestly, an incredibly lonely place. Pride convinces us that we are self-sufficient, but in reality it cuts us off from the life-giving support and connection that we, like all human beings, desperately need to thrive. Closely related to pride is its cousin, selfishness. This is the attitude that constantly asks, "What's in it for me?" A selfish heart approaches community from a consumer mindset, evaluating relationships based on what they can provide. It seeks comfort, but is unwilling to offer it. It desires support, but disappears when others are in need. Selfishness is the enemy of sympathy and presence, because it's just too preoccupied with its own agenda to truly listen or be there for another person. When faced with the choice between personal convenience and the needs of the community, selfishness will always choose convenience. This inward focus makes deep, reciprocal relationships impossible to sustain. To build a thriving community, we must actively guard our hearts against these insidious architects of isolation. This requires a daily, conscious choice for humility over pride and for generosity over selfishness. Humility is the antidote to pride. It is the honest recognition of our own imperfections and our need for others. It allows us to serve, to listen, and to learn from those around us. Choosing unity is the antidote to selfishness. It is the commitment to prioritize the well-being of the group and to find our joy in contributing to the lives of others. By starving these enemies and feeding the virtues of humility and love, we protect our community and create a space where everyone can find a true and lasting home. So how do we move from understanding the theory of community to actually building it in our own lives? The journey begins not with a grand gesture, but with simple, powerful, and consistent actions. The first and most fundamental step is to simply show up. In a world of digital check-ins and fleeting interactions, the gift of your physical presence is becoming increasingly rare and therefore increasingly valuable. Relationships are not built on good intentions or occasional text messages. They are forged in the patient, steady investment of time. Showing up consistently means making your relationships a priority in your schedule. It means being there for the small moments as well as the big ones, creating a reliable presence that others can count on. This commitment to showing up consistently is the soil in which the seeds of trust begin to grow. When you are physically present for a friend's celebration, a family dinner, or a small group meeting, you are sending a clear and powerful message. You matter to me. This consistent presence builds a shared history, a collection of memories and experiences that form the bedrock of a strong connection. It is in the regular, unremarkable moments of just being together that the deepest bonds are often formed. It's about choosing to be there week after week, month after month, demonstrating through your actions that this community is a non-negotiable part of your life, not just something you fit in when it is convenient for you. Hand in hand with showing up is the second crucial action step. Listen deeply. It's entirely possible to be physically present in a room but emotionally and mentally a million miles away. True presence requires more than just your body. It requires your full attention. The call to listen deeply is an invitation to move beyond the superficial back and forth of most conversations. It's a commitment to listen with the primary goal of understanding the other person's heart, not simply waiting for your turn to speak or formulating your reply while they are still talking. This kind of listening is a profound act of love and respect, one that makes people feel truly seen and valued in your presence. To listen deeply means quieting your own internal noise and offering someone the clean, uncluttered space of your attention. It means asking thoughtful questions that invite them to share more of their story. It means paying attention to their body language, their tone of voice, and the emotions that lie beneath their words. When you offer someone this gift of deep listening, you create a sanctuary of safety where they feel free to be authentic and vulnerable. You communicate that their thoughts, feelings, and experiences are important to you. The simple, focused act of listening to understand is one of the most powerful community-building tools we possess, turning ordinary conversations into moments of genuine, soul-level connection. Once the foundation of presence and deep listening is established, the community is strengthened through active expressions of love. The third powerful action step you can take is to serve generously. In a world that constantly asks, "What can I get?" a purpose-driven life asks, "What can I give?" Serving is the practical, hands-on application of love. It is the pillar of mutuality in action. This doesn't have to be a monumental task. In fact, the most meaningful acts of service are often small, thoughtful, and unexpected. It could be offering to help a friend move, bringing a meal to a new parent, or giving your time to a project at your church or in your neighborhood. The key to this step is to serve generously, which means offering your help without expecting anything in return. It's about seeing a need and meeting it simply because you care, not because you're trying to earn points or place someone in your debt. This spirit of selfless generosity breaks down the walls of selfishness and pride. It fosters a culture of mutual care where everyone is looking out for the well-being of others. When you serve someone, you are investing in their life, communicating their value, and tangibly demonstrating the love that holds a community together. Ask yourself each day, whose load can I lighten today? This simple question can transform your perspective and unlock countless opportunities to build connection through service. The fourth action step, and one that uniquely deepens the bonds within a faith-based community, is to pray together. While serving meets the practical needs of others, praying together meets their spiritual needs and unites hearts on the most profound level. There is a unique and powerful intimacy that is forged when we bring our hopes, fears, and praises to God in the presence of one another. Praying for someone is a deep expression of care, but praying with them is an act of shared vulnerability and faith. It's inviting someone into the most sacred space of your conversation with God, and in doing so, creating an unbreakable spiritual bond. Nothing unites people like shared prayer. When you weep with a friend as you pray for their broken heart, or rejoice with them as you thank God for a breakthrough, you are connecting on a soul-to-soul level. This shared spiritual experience transcends the everyday and anchors your relationship in the eternal. It reminds you that you are not just friends navigating life together, but fellow travelers on a spiritual journey dependent on God's grace. Make it a regular practice to ask a friend, "How can I pray for you?" and then take a moment to pray with them right then and there. This simple but profound act will infuse your relationships with a divine strength and unity that nothing else can. The final and perhaps most challenging action step is the commitment to stay through the mess. Building real, authentic community is not a neat and tidy process. It is not always going to be easy, and it is certainly not always going to be comfortable. There will be misunderstandings. There will be conflicts. There will be seasons where relationships feel strained or distant. In our culture of convenience, the temptation is often to walk away when things get difficult, to unfriend or ghost someone and simply move on to something easier. But a purpose-driven community is not disposable. It is built on the fifth powerful action step: perseverance. Real relationships are not always easy, but they are always worth it. Staying through the mess means choosing to apply the pillar of mercy when you have been hurt. It means having the courage to initiate a difficult conversation to resolve a conflict, rather than letting resentment fester. It means giving people the benefit of the doubt and extending grace, just as you hope to receive grace when you inevitably make a mistake. Perseverance is the active choice to love people when they are unlovable, to forgive when it feels impossible, and to remain committed to the relationship even when it is not bringing you immediate joy. This is the hallmark of mature, Christ-like love. This commitment to endurance is what separates superficial friendships from deep, life-giving community. Anyone can be a friend when times are good, when laughter is easy, and when everyone is getting along. The true test of community comes in the moments of friction and failure. It is in these moments that we have the opportunity to build something incredibly strong and resilient. When a community learns how to navigate conflict with grace, how to repair what has been broken, and how to love each other through the messy parts of life, it develops a depth and a trust that fair-weather connections can never know. This is where the real beauty and strength of community are forged. Remember that community grows slowly, but when it is nurtured with these action steps, it grows strong. It is like planting a great oak tree. It requires patience, consistent watering, and protection through storms. It does not become a mighty fortress overnight, but with time and tenacious commitment, it develops deep roots that can withstand any season. So, show up consistently, listen deeply, serve generously, pray together, and make the courageous choice to stay through the mess. These are the actions that will transform your lonely journey into a shared adventure, building a community that will sustain you for the rest of your life. As we journey deeper into the heart of community, we uncover a truth that elevates this entire discussion from a simple human desire to a profound spiritual reality. The need for connection is not just a psychological or social imperative. It is not merely a strategy for a happier, healthier life, though it certainly contributes to both. At its very core, the pursuit of genuine community is a spiritual calling. It is a divine invitation to participate in something much larger than ourselves, something that echoes the very nature of God. This is the spiritual secret that transforms our efforts from mere social networking into a sacred act of worship and obedience. It reframes our entire perspective on why our relationships matter so deeply. This calling is rooted in the understanding that God's primary work in the world has always been about building a family, from his covenant with Abraham to the nation of Israel and ultimately to the global church. God's plan has been to gather a people for himself. He is not interested in saving isolated individuals who will live out their faith in solitude. He is in the business of creating a vast, diverse, and loving family, bound together by their shared relationship with him. Therefore, when we intentionally invest our time, energy, and love into building authentic community, we are not just fulfilling our own needs, we are actively partnering with God in his ultimate purpose for humanity. This spiritual dimension gives our relationships an eternal weight and significance. The act of forgiving a friend who has hurt us becomes more than just emotional housekeeping. It becomes an act of obedience to Christ's command. The choice to welcome a newcomer into our group is not just a social kindness, it is a reflection of God's own welcoming heart toward us. Every effort we make to build bridges, to serve one another, and to maintain unity is a spiritual discipline. It is a tangible way of living out our faith and demonstrating the reality of God's love to a watching world that is starved for genuine connection and belonging. So we must see community not as an optional accessory to our faith, but as central to it. It is the laboratory where our love for God is tested and proven. It is easy to say we love God whom we cannot see, but the Bible tells us that the true evidence of our love for God is found in how we love his people whom we can see. Our calling is to move beyond a self-centered pursuit of belonging and to embrace the higher holy calling of building God's family on earth, one relationship at a time. This is the secret that infuses our every interaction with divine purpose and eternal meaning. In our modern world, we have often confused the concept of church with a physical place. We say, "I am going to church," as if it were a destination, a building with a steeple and pews where we attend a service for an hour once a week. But this is a profound misunderstanding of the spiritual secret. The church, in its truest biblical sense, is not a building made of bricks and mortar. It is not an event you attend or a program you consume. The church is a living, breathing organism. It is a people. The church is you and the church is me, a dynamic global family bound together not by a common location, but by a common love for Jesus Christ. This understanding is absolutely revolutionary. If the church is a people, then our primary expression of faith is not what happens inside a building on a Sunday morning, but what happens in our relationships with one another every single day of the week. The life of the church is found in the coffee shop conversations where we encourage a struggling friend. It is found in the meals we share in our homes, in the prayers we offer for one another over the phone, and in the practical help we give to a neighbor in need. These are the sacred spaces where the body of Christ truly comes alive. The building is simply a tool, a gathering place, but the people are the reality. When we grasp this secret, it changes everything. It means that doing church is not about passively listening to a sermon. It is about actively loving, serving, and being in a committed relationship with our spiritual family. It calls us out of a consumer mindset where we rate the music or the message and into a contributor mindset where we ask how we can build up, encourage, and support the people God has placed in our lives. We are not customers of the church, we are co-laborers and family members. Our role is not to be served, but to serve, to carry each other's burdens, and to fulfill the law of Christ through mutual love and support. Therefore, the strength of any church is not measured by the size of its building or the number of its attendees, but by the depth and authenticity of the relationships among its people. A church is truly healthy when its members are genuinely connected, sharing their lives, practicing forgiveness, and demonstrating the unconditional love of God to one another. The spiritual secret is this: we are the church. We are the living stones that God is building into a spiritual house. And our greatest act of worship is to love one another as He has loved us, creating a living, breathing family that reflects His glory to the world. The final layer of this spiritual secret reveals the most awe-inspiring truth of all. When we invest in building community, we are participating in something that will last for eternity. So much of what we chase in this life is temporary. Our jobs will end, our money will be left behind, our possessions will rust, and our accomplishments will fade from memory. The Apostle Paul reminds us that in the end, only 3 things will remain: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. The only thing we can take with us from this life into the next is our relationship with God and our love for other people. This means that cultivating relationships is not just a strategy for a better life now. It is an investment in our eternal future. Every time we choose to forgive, we are practicing the very grace that defines heaven. Every time we gather with fellow believers for encouragement and prayer, we are getting a small taste, a foretaste, of the great family reunion that awaits us. Every time we serve someone selflessly, we are aligning our hearts with the heart of our servant King Jesus. We are not just passing the time on earth, we are actively preparing for and participating in the reality of an eternal kingdom that is built on love. This eternal perspective should radically reorient our priorities. It should motivate us to spend less time accumulating things that will not last, and more time cultivating the relationships that will. It gives us the strength to persevere through the messy and difficult parts of community because we know we are working on something of infinite value. The conflicts, the misunderstandings, and the hard work of loving imperfect people are not meaningless frustrations. They are part of our spiritual formation, shaping us into people who are fit for an eternity of love. Our relationships are the training ground for heaven. So, when we gather, when we forgive, when we serve, and when we love, we are doing more than just being good people. We are participating in eternity itself. We are weaving a tapestry of love that death cannot unravel. We are building a treasure in heaven that will never be destroyed. This is the ultimate spiritual secret of community. It is our chance to touch eternity, right here and now. It is our opportunity to live in such a way that our lives echo the love of God, a love that is the foundation of the universe and the destiny of our souls. This is the purpose for which we were truly made. As we draw to the close of our time together on day 19 of our purpose-driven journey, let us take a moment to look back at the path we have traveled. We began in a place familiar to so many, the feeling of loneliness in a crowded room, a quiet ache for a place to truly belong. We affirmed that this longing is not a weakness, but a sacred echo of our original design, a signal from our soul that we were created for connection. We explored the paradox of our modern world, where unprecedented connectivity has somehow led to a profound epidemic of isolation, leaving us with a deep and persistent emptiness that no amount of worldly success or achievement could ever hope to fill. This understanding set the stage for our deep dive into the heart of authentic community. We then uncovered the life-giving power of genuine fellowship, realizing it is the place we find encouragement when our hearts are heavy, and wisdom when our minds are confused. It is the sacred space where our past wounds can find healing, and our present victories can be joyfully celebrated. To build such a sanctuary, we identified 4 unshakable pillars: the courage of authenticity, the rhythm of mutuality, the gentle power of sympathy, and the resilient grace of mercy. We recognize these not as lofty ideals but as the practical, foundational elements required to construct relationships that can withstand the tests of time and trial, forming a blueprint for true belonging that we can all begin to follow in our own lives. In contrast, we also identified the silent killers that seek to destroy what we build. The insidious enemies of gossip, judgment, pride, and selfishness. We saw how these destructive forces fracture hearts, build walls, and dismantle the very trust that community depends upon. Armed with this knowledge, we turn to practical, actionable steps. The foundational commitment to show up consistently and listen deeply. The active love expressed through serving generously and praying together. And the tenacious resolve to stay through the mess, persevering in love even when it is difficult. These steps transform our understanding into a tangible practice, empowering us to become active builders of the community we seek. Finally, we unveiled the profound spiritual secret that underpins this entire journey. That cultivating community is not merely a human need, but a divine calling. We are partnering with God in His ultimate purpose of building a family. We are the church, a living, breathing people, not a building. And our investment in loving one another is an investment in eternity itself. Our relationships are the training ground for heaven, the arena where we practice the love that will last forever. This journey has not just been about finding friends, it has been about finding our place in God's eternal story, a story of connection, redemption, and everlasting love. With this rich understanding now settled in our hearts, the most important question remains: what will you do with it? Knowledge without action is like a map that is never used to take a journey. It is interesting to look at, but it will never lead you to the destination. The purpose of our time together is not simply to inspire you for a moment, but to empower you for a lifetime of meaningful connection. The journey from isolation to community is not completed in one giant leap, but through a series of small, intentional, and courageous steps. The power to change your relational world does not lie in some distant future. It lies in the very next choice you make. The call to action is for now. So I ask you to pause and reflect right now. Who is God calling you to reach out to today? As you listened, did a specific face or name come to your mind? Perhaps it is a friend you have lost touch with, a family member with whom things have felt distant, or a new acquaintance at work or church who looks like they could use a friend. Do not dismiss that prompting. That gentle nudge is a divine invitation to be an agent of connection. Your purpose is always connected to people, and that connection often begins with a single, simple act of reaching out, of bridging a gap that has grown too wide. Or perhaps the first step is one of inward-facing courage. Who is God calling you to forgive? Is there a hurt you have been nursing? A grudge you have been holding on to that has been acting as a silent barrier in your heart? Remember, mercy is the grace that holds community together. Choosing to forgive does not excuse the other person's behavior, but it frees you from the prison of bitterness and reopens the possibility of relationship. Maybe the most important call you make today is not to someone else, but to your own heart, choosing to release an old wound and take a step toward healing and reconciliation, whether they know it or not. The call to action is simple, but it is not always easy. It requires you to move beyond passive listening and into active participation. Take one small step today, right now. Send that text message you have been putting off. Make that phone call you have been nervous about. Write that email extending an olive branch. Offer a genuine compliment. Invite someone for a coffee. Do not wait for the perfect moment or for someone else to make the first move. Build a bridge. Your small act of courage could be the start of a beautiful friendship, the mending of a broken bond, or the lifeline of hope for someone who feels utterly alone. Thank you, my dear friend, for joining me today for day 19 of our purpose-driven journey cultivating community. It has been an honor to walk this path with you, to explore these deep truths, and to rediscover the profound importance of belonging. But our journey does not have to end here. In fact, this is just the beginning. The principles we have discussed today are not meant to be a one-time lesson, but a lifelong practice. I want to personally invite you to continue this exploration with us, to become a part of this growing community of people who are committed to living a life of purpose, on purpose. If this message has resonated with you, I encourage you to make it a part of your story. The easiest way to continue this journey is to subscribe to this channel, so you do not miss a single day of our shared adventure. Each day we unpack another essential piece of the puzzle of a purpose-driven life. Furthermore, if you believe this message could encourage someone else, a friend, a family member, or a co-worker who might be feeling lonely, please share it with them. Your share is more than just a click. It is an act of community building in itself, an extension of this invitation to someone else who needs to hear it. We were not designed to walk alone, and that includes this very journey of purpose. Together, we are stronger. When we share our insights, our struggles, and our victories, we reinforce our own commitment and provide invaluable encouragement to others. The path to a meaningful life is not a solitary sprint. It is a marathon that is best run with others. By learning and growing together, we create a powerful momentum that can carry us through any challenge and amplify every joy. The community we have been talking about today is the very thing we are trying to build right here with you. Let us commit to living out these truths, not just in theory but in our daily lives. Let us be the kind of people who build bridges, offer grace, and show up for one another. Because together we find meaning in a world that often feels meaningless. Together we find strength when we feel weak. And together we can truly live the full, connected, and abundant life that we were all created for. Thank you again for being here. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow as we continue our journey together.